Okay, let's open it up to questions and responses to Ravi. Yeah.
I'm kind of a bit disoriented by this discussion going on, because it seems so completely alien to what we saw and what we heard.
Right.
And it's like a poetic, beautiful poetic game, which is lovely to hear and to listen to. But having seen your pictures, gives you the feeling we are hurtling straight into extinction. And there is nothing showing that we are actually not only correcting course, but reversing course. So, and I mean, you talk of the contradictions, even where we are building electric cars and we think we are great, we are using 9 times more copper in the bargain. If we have carbon credits, we think we are great and we fly that much more around the world because of the carbon credits makes us feel good. So everything we do, actually, we only contribute to that extinction. So please tell me whether I'm wrong. I'm just feeling.
If you look at the macro data, we are on that. All the data suggests that we are not in a good shape. We are not
in a good shape. I think that is a euphemism.
Bad shape. I mean, saying it politely.
I mean, we are constantly saying we are not in a good shape.
We must. ppm of carbon in the air.
We have to change course. But like the pictures that you had with of these little fisher boats with the engines, and you seem to say, we need to give these fishermen engines so that they can go further out, that they can, and then of course the consequences will be economical, will be large scale, because suddenly the markets are saturated or the sea is overfished, and there is nothing that really points to a change fundamentally that we are. I mean, like you bring the alphabet of that.
Ogam.
Yeah. I mean, my thought was that is probably something that should be put into a satellite and put out into the outer space for some other civilization perhaps to pick it up. I mean, that's all we can do. I mean, beautiful alphabet here, but what does that have to do with our own becoming superfluous, becoming extinct?
So I mean, it's. I know the moment I make that argument in your terms, I seem like a doomsday kind of guy, and I don't want to see. I cannot predict the future. I cannot. But the data we see right now is not good at all. It's pretty bad data, and of course, human spirit conquers everything. That's everybody's belief, and human innovation will conquer everything. That's everybody's belief. That somehow we'll get to know to do it better. But the point is that to fuel an economy of this consumption, the kind, where will it come from? It's very hard to see where it will come from. And even if it comes from somewhere, the point is that there'll be few people controlling that economy. Whether it's the information economy or the material economy, they are already positioned to control it. So what power do you have to change it? So the plastic problem is part of the petrochemical, the fossil fuel issue. It's no different. Plastic is an outcome of fossil fuels. It's a petrochemical output, in a sense. So we are so lodged, so deeply lodged, and there are so many invested structures in it, that it's very hard to shift that. Who are the people who oppose the latest climate conference? Trump, Shell, and Mobil, with Saudi Arabia, and people who have investments in oil. So these are the desires which are governing large policy shifts, in the way we are doing things. Germany says they'll go to renewables.
You're
but
saying
they're going to buy from France, the nuclear power from France.
You're saying that we all believe in human ingenuity, and we will be able to change it.
We seem to have believed in it.
I mean, if you look at Homo sapiens, what 10,000 years ago, the fantastic advancement we've made technologically, evolutionary. In our minds, we are still Homo sapiens. We have not gone beyond the instinctual triggers of fear and love and greed. They are still the same. So where is human ingenuity? It has led us down into the present state. Sorry, maybe I'm just too old to still believe these nice stories.
I don't think there was any nice stories, but okay.
Ingenuity.
No, of course, ingenuity. Without that, you're
Some debates. We need to express. Yeah. Yes.
Thanks. So I'm going to ramble a little bit, but it's odd because I spend a lot of time like following scientists or climate scientists and people who are working on mitigation and adaptation and stuff just for fun. But apparently we already have the technology to reel this back to 350 if we wanted. They're called trees, and we can plant them, and eventually once they mature they will start sequestering carbon. But the only reason it's not happening is because we're not doing it. And I'm really curious. I mean, I don't know if this is the right room to ask this question in, but clearly the problem is there's too many of us, and we breed too many things that should not be bred into life, primarily animals, and that's taking up most of the space that we could use to plant trees. There's new efficient ways to grow food, which we could be doing, there's people doing it. Yeah. But moreover, to me, this is like a moment where our species could actually evolve into, I mean spiritually, I don't know if this is the right room to use that word, but where we could actually, where we could evolve to be less materialistic and less externalize our identity or our fulfillment from external sources, and sort of not necessarily go back to nature, but go back to, because we are part of nature, right? We're an extension of nature, not this other thing or on this sort of hierarchy of we're up here and everybody else is up down below. Sure. So I'm just curious why nobody is actually, I mean, there are people talking about it, but why more people are not talking about cutting down breeding in general, like not, I know that it sounds harsh and it sounds extreme, but we are at that point where drastic measures are needed, and why we're not actually pushing for a ban on breeding animals. And okay, it sounds crazy when you say, okay, a ban on breeding people, and obviously free will is a huge thing, and I'm a big supporter of free will, but there needs to be some talk, and there is talk about people questioning whether they should have children or not and all of this stuff, but I'm just curious why no one is really pushing for that.
I mean, and Chinese are.
Yes, yes, but they have a huge landmass, but I mean, if you look at what's coming there, they're gonna have a rough time. But yeah, that's my question. I don't even know if that was a question.
So I just want to make one comment, and I think this idea of self-responsibility is being pushed too much. No, I'm not by you, not by you. I want to, because I think we have less agency in our systems than we believe we have. I give you the example of plastics. You know, everybody says separate plastics, segregate plastics. No. That's fine. We should do that. We should all be good citizens, and if you're a Chinese, you can be able to travel more and get more social points if we do that. But the structures with producing a plastic are not backing off. See, the investments the investments being made in what is we are then meant to be using, how much agency we have in that is very limited, it seems to me. And so if you're going to produce by 2050 1,800 million tons of plastic as against 355 million tons now, then where will the plastic go? How much will you segregate? How much will you recycle? It has to be a two-ended thing. Are we really serious in this? And you know, that's the question with Amitav Ghosh has been asking now. He's sort of become the big champion of the ecological question. He said, I'm going to only talk about this.
But my thing is, see, I'm a vegan activist of sorts, and so I've been observing this movement for 8 years, and that's actually how I got into understanding about climate change and what's going on. I started as an activist trying to find scientific reasons for why we should give up, you know, animal products, and I found them. But there's a thing in marketing, which I'm sure a lot of people in this room know, called the diffusion innovation theory, which is basically how we reach tipping points when a new product or a new idea comes into the market. Mm-hmm. And what we're noticing as vegans is, because climate change will make certain things impossible or harder to do, but because consumption is sort of dropping amongst the innovators and the early adapters, which are in some cases people who can afford alternatives, supply is starting to crash as well, because sometimes the margins are so thin so that when people are not buying, or not as many people are buying, they're not able to spread the costs. So I have this argument a lot with people about like, oh, it's just these big companies and they have to be reeled in. But those companies only care about profit. So if we stop buying their shit, sorry, pardon my French, sorry, I apologize. If we stop buying their stuff or cut down what we buy, we hurt them. And they're not going to continue producing something we're not buying. And not everyone can do this, not everyone can afford to do it, but those who can should. And we should push for it. I think you have to push for it on both sides.
More power to you. Seriously.
But people should, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not that. Sorry.
Somebody has a response, or? Yeah.
No response actually. No, let's say
No, I think it was just like in light of the conversation as well as what you said earlier. I think if you spoke more about the alternate reading on Anthropocene, that would clarify a lot of this as well, because there's that understanding that it's all inclusive when it's really not.
It depends on where in the social hierarchy you are. So I said some of us will survive, but many of us won't, in a sense, of the human race. And that's the question, that who's the we are talking about, and what are the choices which are there, and what is the vulnerability in those choices. And so we can ask the question, some of us can ask that question, but some of us don't have many people don't have the options of asking those questions. And certainly the non-human does not have any option at all. So then there are many exclusions. And when we say equality in modernity, what equality are we talking about? Whose equality are we talking about? So it's a counter-equality sort of thing. And I'm not saying that you should not, or everybody should be doing what they think they should be doing. But I'm trying to present a framework in which we need to think what our actions are and whether they're enough. I personally think it's not enough to segregate your waste anymore. No, I'm just saying, I'm not commenting. It's just not enough to buy this argument that segregate your waste. If I was saying it, I'm saying don't segregate it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's just not enough to be bought in the logic, be a good consumer and the world will be fine. We have to also be aware that the world we're living in is not isolated to us. We're living in a whole system, paradigm of things, and how do we think about that, and what do we need to do?
Okay. I have a very simple question is, see, we guys are in ivory tower. Even to discuss this we are using stuff which actually is the reason for this, this crisis. We are using the technology, we are using everything that we are not supposed to use. We will be going back to the car, I'm saying, using the same fuel that we are fighting against. Now
I'm not. I'm not fighting against it. Sorry.
Pardon?
Nothing. Sorry, go on, sorry. I'll explain. Yeah,
no, I'm fighting because I actually bought a farm, because it became too much for me to kind of live the life that I was living. And then I realized that the people around me in this farm, the around area or so, it is much more easy to talk to them and get them to become activists than we guys sitting here and trying to discuss it over a coffee or a wine. It actually doesn't work. And like you said, I come from Konkan region. You said about what South Americans do. We've been doing it for years. We pray to the food before we eat. It is a very, very common, very simple thing to do. We actually in a way we say, sorry, I built my house, my farmhouse, and I actually had a sort of a prayer to say that I'm saying sorry to all those who lived here before me, that I'm going to spoil their environment. All I'm trying to say is that I think this is all fine what we're discussing it. Won't it be nicer that we also have this seminar or this discourse done in the local language? Talk to the people who actually understand it better. Chipko movement. Because we are not going to, none of us, I'm just raise your hands and tell me tomorrow there is a we're going to have some kind of activity. How many people will come and join us? But tomorrow I'm saying to you, see.
On the 30th,
yeah, but I'm saying very few will come down. Trust me. No, we will. No, too less as compared to but if you go to the smaller villages and figure it out how many people come. So is that a better way that we start talking to those people? क्या हम हिंदी में बात कर सकते हैं, क्या मराठी में बात कर सकते हैं, तमिल में बात कर सकते हैं, केरला में जाके केरला से उन लोगों से बात कर सकते हैं. Like Mao said, capture the villages.
नहीं, पर cities का क्या करें? तो that is the thing.
Sir, city का क्या करें? Eliminating the villages. I am saying those people they don't need solutions from us. Talk to them.
No, I'm not. I'm just talking because this is, we live in cities, and one of the problems is that if you let Ambani have this discussion, that you don't tell him to go to the villages because he also goes to the villages, right? And I'm sure Ravi does. And so, I'm just saying you don't cede the space of politics to say ki now we have to retreat to some form of nature or some form of indigenous living. No, so the validity of having this discussion, is the same as if we were to have this discussion in a university in Bombay or in Ambani's house or in, the n number of other institutions in the city. So we should not give up the space of a modern cosmopolitan life, and we can't go back to villages. मेरा तो गाँव ही नहीं है, मैं कहाँ जाऊँगा, आपका तो है गाँव, मेरा नहीं है, नहीं मेरा फार्म हाउस, मतलब हाँ.
You own a lot of things. You don't have to buy necessarily.
No, I don't mind that, but I'm saying don't leave the space entirely.
One of his arguments is to reach to the masses rather than just speaking in.
No, I don't mind that. Ravi works with a lot of people. I work with a lot of different kinds of people. I'm sure Goethe-Institut works with, is it an institutional question or is it a person? Because if it's to Ravi, then he works with a lot of people.
Maybe some answers might come from them. Let's be humble. Let's give a benefit of doubt to them.
True.
Maybe they will give us the answers. Instead of we finding all the answers for them. For us. Possible.
Amitabh Ghosh talks about why is there no sense of crisis. We've been saying this in every lecture. Why don't we feel that something is really wrong? Why don't we recognize it? It's a problem. Why don't we recognize that there is a point when something is really wrong right now?
I've had this conversation, unless someone else wanted to go.
I have 3 issues. Number one is that what you said about the plastic waste. A friend of mine, she's the director of New South Wales at Australia. She has made a statement, and her research on using the plastic in manufacturing of green steel. This has been recorded, and her thesis also been probably accepted for Nobel Prize. She says, in your streets, next 5 years, you will not get one piece of plastic. Waste will be there. It will be used. So there is a lot of misnomers among the people. But I must salute what Dr. Ravi Agarwal is doing. Bringing out a lot of things about because you need to create awareness. Awareness has to be done in Mueller Bhavan, elsewhere, and it will happen. That's how it's happening. Number 2 is that I come from a fishing village where 9,000 fishing crafts are there. Not today. I'll take back you to 1977 when India's Prime Minister Morarji Desai came to our place because there was a fire among the boats which were bought out of the river, sea, and Where is it? I'll tell you. Coastal Karnataka. So about 4,000 boats were burnt. So he said, boatsman must be given compensation. He identified the bank. Bank gave free loan to rebuild the boat. And today it is one of the biggest fishing harbor in coastal Karnataka. And actually, the Mangalore-Panambur harbour should have been there, but then because of the funding and the other thing, it went to Mangalore. The third most important thing is that 3 issues which you said about Chipko, Narmada. But Narmada is a smaller thing compared to Ganga.
Compared to?
Ganga cleaning.
Ganga cleaning? No, I was talking about the movements.
Yeah,
It's one of the biggest movements ever in the country.
Yeah, and Niyamgiri, the singing.
A very big movement.
Very big movement. But what happened? Chipko survived. It's not that, Chipko had made an impact that today Western Ghat, you go. Air Marshal, who was a governor of Maharashtra, he said, let us do the seedling through the air, this thing. He hired the aircrafts and, it was done. Today, Western Ghat is there, live. See, Sri Lanka did the same thing. Jayavardhan, let me complete, sir. I'll take 1 more minute. President Jayavardhan's son, he said, cut all those trees in the hills. I want to build a palace. But they did it. But then they realized the world famous architect, Bhava, he refused thereafter. He said, no, I'm not going to build. But he built parliament as well as the palace for the president. Third and final is that nuclear. You have not talked about anything about the nuclear waste. That's a big issue. India has a big issue. We are dealing with, We have to deal with.
We're dealing with it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You are doing it. You're going, every village, every nook and corner. It's a fantastic thing. Let us give Ravi Agarwal a big hand.